Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. This is High Vibes on the mic with Veronique, and today I'm with Nicki. How are you today, Nicki?
I am doing really well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. So today we're going to talk about the subject of reclaiming your life after divorce. A lot of people went through this, are going through this, and Nicki is helping women and she's coaching them going through this very difficult experience. So Nicki, you talk about being very surprised how hard you felt when you got divorced. The thing I was wondering, how long did it take between the end of your marriage and when you actually got divorced? Because it felt like you were still married for a long time and then you get divorced and then you realize, oh, I'm divorced now, and you got depressed. So how long was it between?
So I was with my ex for 17 years, and then the divorce process took a couple of years. And it wasn't until, the divorce was finalized. I thought I was healing during those 2 years. I thought I was doing everything I was supposed to be doing and that I was doing really great. And then as the divorce got finalized and things kind of fell into place, I realized I hadn't really stepped into what healing actually was. And so it did take me, honestly, probably another 5 full years. So including the time during my divorce and the healing period, it was about 7 years for me.
Yeah, that's a long time.
It was a really long time. I did have a lot happening during that time as well. So it wasn't just my divorce. My mom was diagnosed with dementia and passed away. So I had a lot on my plate that didn't really allow me to focus on my healing from my divorce. So that's part of why it did take me a bit longer.
Okay. Yeah. So you had other issues to take care of, and then when you were settled, you realized, okay, so what do I do now? Who I am? So we're going to talk about this because your divorce was like a turning point in your journey. And so how did you get to coaching, other people? What was the light bulb for you?
Oh, I've had a few light bulb moments over the years. So looking back, I was really surprised by how difficult my divorce was, because ultimately it was my decision to leave. And I thought that once I made that decision, that everything else would just fall into place and it would be easy. And again, I did have other things going on at the time, but my divorce, and when I say my divorce, I don't mean the legal side of it. I mean the healing side. My divorce really cracked me wide open, and I felt so many emotions on such an intense level that I didn't know what to do with them. And then, so as I healed and learned how to manage those emotions, I started to kind of come through that and look around what was happening around me. And I realized how many other people were going through similar things. And the biggest thing that kind of led me to the coaching piece was, a couple of things. One, I was a mortgage broker and I'm a mortgage broker. And I first started to narrow my mortgage business down to helping women going through divorces with their mortgages. And so I listened to so many women's stories over the years, and they were really similar to mine. And they were struggling with the intense emotions and they didn't know what to do with any of it. So all of those things kind of led me to coaching. I've also helped a lot of women in my life through a divorce as well. And so again, the similarities, the intensity, and just realizing that healing and coming out the other side is a choice. We can all get divorced and just stay either in those intense emotions or shove them down and just move on with our life and do our best, or we can choose to heal. And I want more women to choose to heal.
Okay, yeah. I mean, there's something that I read on your website that really touched me. You said that when you were married, you completely molded into your husband and everything he liked and everything he wanted to do, and you put everything you liked on the side. So then when you got divorced, you didn't know who you were anymore. So I think a lot of women do that. They follow more, the husband part. And then when the children are gone, or if the husband is gone, you can feel completely lost.
Absolutely. And when I went through it, I say I didn't know who I was, and I lived my life under labels for so long. Labels of his wife, the label of married, just all these different labels. And when you took away those labels, I didn't know who I was. I had given up so much to fit into his life that I lost so many parts of me. I lost my passion. I lost some ambition. I lost the connection I had to people, to myself. I lost so much. And I think I say in that blurb too, because I was actually reading it today because someone had commented on it. So I went back to read exactly what I had wrote. And I talked about how I chose those things. I chose to sell my horse because he wanted me to. I chose to assimilate into his friend group and kind of slowly distance from mine. I chose all of those things But I feel like as girls, as women, the messaging we get around what's important isn't ever choosing us. It's making sure everybody around us is comfortable. It's prioritizing a romantic relationship, which means prioritizing them, because heaven forbid we say or do something that they don't like, because then we're not prioritizing that relationship, right?
We always put everything before us, and we will come like second or third, in life. You talk about healing limiting beliefs. Can you tell us about that? And also regulating the nervous system, how it can help women that reconnect with themselves. Is that part of the coaching that you do?
It is. And I mean, I can talk about so much here, so just stop me if you need to. So yeah, limiting beliefs are something that I learned about after my divorce again, and I didn't realize how much my limiting beliefs were directing my life. And even going back to the choices I made in my marriage and my relationship, a lot of those choices were driven by experiences in my life that had created limiting beliefs. So to me, a limiting belief it's almost like a story that we create. So something happens to us. It could be an event, it can be something traumatic, it can be something simple that someone says to us when we're a child. And limiting belief is created by how we internalize that event or whatever it is that person said to us. And what happens when we internalize it is we start making up our own story. We start changing maybe what actually happened. And when we do that, a few things happen because we create this story, and then something else will happen and we'll apply our story to that, and it reinforces that belief that we created. And obviously it's called a limiting belief because it's usually something that holds us back. And what else happens is a lot of times what we're feeling in those moments. So again, if it's something someone said to us, if it's an actual event, whatever it is, we're feeling things, we're creating this story, and we have to stuff some of it down. So we store it in our body. And when we store things in our body, we kind of disconnect from like the neck down and the neck up. So we've got our thinking, our intellectualizing, the logic that we try and logic ourselves into so many different things, right? And we disconnect from what we feel in our body. So those emotions, those stories, they get stored and we get stuck.
Is that what you talk about when you talk about trauma? That trauma isn't always what happened to us. It can be stored in the body. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, Dr. Gabor Mate says it best, and I don't know his word for word, but it's basically, trauma isn't what happens to us. It's what happens in our body, right? Mm-hmm. It's how we internalize what happens to us. It's not always the event. And that's why, trauma has definitely become, a word that everyone uses. And so many people think of trauma as this big event. It's coming back from war. It's a car accident. It's, something traumatic that happened. And I think what's happening now is we're realizing it's not, again, about the size of the event. It's what we do with it. It's how we feel it, how we internalize it, how we store it, what story we make up around it. That's what creates the trauma and the limiting belief. Because again, for me, in order for it to be a trauma, it has to be something that we continue to almost hurt ourselves with, right? So something happens to us. If we face it, we deal with it, we release whatever we need to release in that moment, nothing gets stored. And it could still be a huge event, but if we don't store anything from it, it can't come back and hurt us.
Is this something that could make you like physically sick?
Absolutely. Stress in the body. So, and especially as women, because again, we're taught to people please, we're taught to make sure everybody else around us is uncomfortable. So then we ignore what we're feeling or shove it down. But shoving it down doesn't make it go away. It just shoves it down into our bodies. And then now there are way more women being diagnosed with autoimmune diseases because of how we store our stress or handle our stress.
Yeah. What would be most of the common, limiting belief that you notice with your clients?
There's definitely a lot. Because I work specifically with women in divorce, a big one is the limiting belief of I am alone. So we feel like, and again, going back to the messaging, we feel like if we're not in a romantic relationship, we're alone. Okay, where does that come from? Where in your story or where in your life did you create the story that you're alone, and why is that still coming up? Another big one is around safety. So whether it's not feeling safe to speak your truth, not feeling safe it can be physical safety, but just not being safe in the world in one way or another. A lot of women, and this one was mine, I struggle with being too much. At the same time, I struggle with not being enough. And I think that's a really big one for a lot of women because, again, we're not supposed to speak up. We're not supposed to be loud. We're not supposed to take up space. So when we do, we're too much.
Yeah.
And then we're never enough because, well, we just can't be. There's no way that we can be enough in this world, right?
Yeah. I've been told I was too much sometimes.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, I had a big breakup a long time ago. Was someone for 5 years. And then when we broke up, I never felt that alone in my life. And that loneliness, being single, I mean, not having somebody, a real relationship, lasted 7 years. I don't know why, but I think 7 sometimes is a magic number.
It seems to be. I think they call it the 7-year itch.
I know 7 years is something, I mean, it took me almost 7 years to get over it. But yeah, I felt so lonely. And I was surrounded by friends, by family. But yeah, because I didn't have anybody I could really trust in my life as a love interest. It felt very lonely.
And loneliness is very real. And it's just, again, with divorce, you're going from living with someone and depending on the marriage, of course, depending on the level of the intimacy and the level of that relationship. But either way, like even for mine, I always said like I was single married because my husband wasn't there. He wasn't there emotionally. He wasn't there physically a lot of the time. He just wasn't present. So even though I was married and sharing a space with him, I was very much alone. But I was still surprised at how lonely I felt after. Yeah, surprised by a lot of things after. I wasn't expecting to feel a lot of the things I felt.
What kind of advice you could give to someone who feels like very overwhelmed and has a lot of emotion, they don't know how to begin with the healing? What would be the first thing, they could do?
I would say, and this is a tough one because when we're in that space, when we're feeling that overwhelm, that anxiety, it feels like everything is out of control and we just can't. We have no control. We have no ability, right? So the biggest thing, and this is hard, even though it's really simple, is to pause and to breathe. So it's just taking control of your breathing is the first step. That's all it is. Whether you're driving, you get a text from your ex, sends you over the edge. If you can, pull over, obviously, but just start counting your breaths. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, pause for 4. And just do that until you feel yourself starting to calm down. Because a lot of times that overwhelm, again, we're feeling it in our body, but we're up here. And so we're kind of ignoring what's happening in our body. So breathing brings us back into our body. And then once you've been able to breathe and pause and breathe and kind of get a little bit into your body, what I always tell the women I work with is to stop and pay attention to your body. What are you feeling and where? So for me, it used to be in my stomach. Then it moved to my chest. And then it went into my throat because I couldn't communicate. So it's like it got stuck, but I really felt tightness in my chest. Like I felt it physically. So once they can kind of name the location, then it's describe it. Can you give it a color? Red? Angry? Is it blue? Is it sad? So give it a color, give it a shape, give it anything that can describe the sensation, what you're feeling. And I really find giving it a color and a shape, I don't know why, but again, I think it's just because it makes it tangible. And when something's tangible, it makes us easier to trust it.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I never thought about that before. Would that be part of the method that you have that you call the root cause therapy? Is that would be part of this? Can you explain to us what it is?
Yeah, so with root cause therapy, the first thing, we talk a lot about emotions and what you're feeling, and we rate different emotions on the days that we're meeting so that we can kind of keep track of how you're feeling. And then we do some muscle testing. So muscle testing is helping us determine where what limiting beliefs we have. Because, if someone had said to me at one point in my life that, I don't know, I was too much, I would have been like, well, no, I'm not. Like, I didn't believe it, right? Like because when it's a limiting belief, it's in our subconscious. We're not always aware of it. So the muscle testing makes us aware of things we might not be aware of. Now, most of the time, as we're doing the muscle testing and something tests that, yes, that is a limiting belief, they go, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. But again, it's bringing that subconscious to the conscious. So we do the muscle testing to basically determine what limiting beliefs are there. And then we do a guided visualization. We pick one for that particular session. We pick the one that maybe they felt the strongest or that they really want to work on. and we do a guided visualization. And during the guided visualization, yeah, it's like, what are you feeling? Where do you feel it? And you describe it for me. Like, there's lots that goes along with it. And then we actually dial up the emotion behind it as high as we can, as much as the person can tolerate. And then we work on releasing it from there.
Can you do that by Zoom, or people have to come and see you?
No, I can do it by Zoom. The muscle test, because the muscle testing, I just need to be able to see you standing. And then that's all there is to it. Obviously, that's not all there is to it, but I just need to see you standing. And then we go through the different limiting beliefs and see how your body reacts to them. And then, yeah, the guided visualization is just done over Zoom as well.
Okay. So if someone is interested to try this method, the first step would be to contact you. You do the Zoom. Do you have to fill up a questionnaire before, or make an appointment?
Yeah. Well, yes and no. So what I usually do is I do a free consultation or a free discovery call. There's so many different terms for it, but essentially it's an hour. So I do have an intake form, so to speak, where they can just share a little bit about why they're reaching out, so that when we jump on that discovery call, I already know a little bit. So we don't have to spend 20 minutes talking about why they want this, right? And then we just talk and make sure that it's something that they're going to feel comfortable with, because it can be really intense. I know when I took the course, I had to, there was a practicum involved, and part of the practicum was I had to be a client for a certain number of sessions. So I had to have it, basically it was done on me. And yeah, and this is after, this was last year. So I had done a lot. Yeah. And the intensity that I felt, some of the emotions while I was doing the guided visualization was really eye-opening. But you have to feel it that intensely to be able to release it.
So that will be part of the healing journey. After that, I guess other things will take place, and I think you have a 90 days program, right, for people to that they can follow to start healing.
It's 90 days, so it's 8 sessions. So the first 4 sessions we actually do weekly, and that's where we do the root cause therapy. So we want to do it weekly so that we're checking those limiting beliefs, we're doing the guided visualizations, we're working on releasing those things, because we can't really regulate our nervous system if we're living from a place of limiting beliefs. Because when we're living from a place of limiting beliefs, we're not always making conscious choices. We think we are. But our subconscious is really driving a lot of our decision making.
Do you think meditation will help with that? Because people are all about meditation. I am about, meditation. Would that be part of the program?
Absolutely. So when we get into the nervous system regulation, meditation is definitely one of the tools that I talk about. And even with the root cause therapy, there is some integration meditations that go along with it that they would do after our session.
Okay. And so what would be some of the most transformating breakthrough you witnessed in your client after they took that class with you?
Do you mean, the root cause therapy piece, or the 90-day program in general?
I would say first the root cause therapy. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had women where they have a full breakdown. And I don't like the word breakdown. That's why I hesitate. I'm like, what other word can I use besides breakdown? But it really is. They're in such a safe place. We've accessed their subconscious. We've accessed something that was really painful, because they stored it, they created a story around it, and it's been a part of them for likely a long time. And they finally release it. And they're just overwhelmed with emotion, but not in a bad way. It's like they're just kind of, I don't want to say drained, but I guess in a way they almost are, because when that release happens, there's so much relief and you could feel it. So those moments where I just have to give them space is amazing. And then I'll always get a message that was amazing. I feel so much lighter. I feel freer. Yeah.
Like a big weight has been lifted, right?
Literally.
Yeah, because even if it's not really your fault, not your fault. We don't know what's going on in people's lives, but I know women who beating ourselves a lot. And, when a divorce happens, you're always going to say, no, maybe I should have done this, I should have done that, it's my fault. And that could be part of that limiting beliefs that, because of you, the divorce took place. And if there's kids involved also, because you have children, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. And like, that's the deserving piece, right? And again, for women, a lot of us don't feel like we deserve what we actually deserve. And so, yeah, there's a whole piece there too. And when we start to realize, wait, I do deserve this, there's a lot of shifts that happen inside us.
Yeah. So you said that what role do patterns and alignment play in the healing process?
Yeah, to be able to truly connect with yourself and align with who you are, not who society tells us to be, not who our marriage told us to be, like who we truly are. So connecting to ourselves and aligning with that is so empowering. And that to me is the ultimate, like healing's a journey, right? Where you never get to the end and go, ooh, I did it. I'm all healed now, because life is constantly happening. So even when we're healing, I mean, we're still facing things that can create new limiting beliefs, right? If we're not aware of it. So yeah, it's just really understanding your patterns, understanding your stories, and understanding how those have got you to where you are. I always tell the story how I never used to have anxiety, and all of a sudden I woke up one day and I had anxiety, and I didn't know what to do with it, and I didn't know why it was there. And I'm a huge believer in therapy, so I had gone to my therapist and was like, whoa, what is this? It does not feel good. And she just kind of sat there for a minute. She said, you've always had anxiety. It just always served you. And now it's not serving you anymore. You don't need it anymore. So now it's almost fighting back. You don't need it, but what's going to happen to it? Where's it it's not just going to disappear. You have to consciously release it.
Okay. So it came out of a sudden from nowhere.
Well, it felt like it did, but when she said it's always been there, it had just served me. I really sat there and went, oh yeah, I have felt this before, but I always just I'd feel it and be like, oh, I don't like this. And so I would just channel myself, and I would go and I poured myself into my business. I poured myself into my marriage, in my opinion. I'm sure my ex would say differently, and that's okay, because his story is going to be different than mine. His perspective is going to be different than mine, because we both lived it from our experiences and filters, right? So for me, I gave it everything I had. So I just used the anxiety and poured it into things to make me successful. And yeah. And then when I didn't need it anymore, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I couldn't channel it. Yeah. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah, I was really touched when you said, that you gave away your love for horses. And now that you divorce, you finally find yourself again, and you got a horse. Got your horse back.
I got
another one, I guess.
Well, and the funny thing is he
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's it just relit something inside of me. And yeah, and my horse now is about as close as he could possibly be to the horse that I sold 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, same color. This guy's a little bit bigger, same breed, similar personality. I call him my 1,000-pound toddler, because he's just like an overgrown child that is into everything and creates chaos and trouble everywhere he goes. But he's so darn cute when he does it that you just can't get mad at him.
So your husband just didn't like horses, or he thought it was too expensive to have a horse?
Yeah, it was a couple things. So they are very expensive,
okay,
and they're time consuming. And I competed. So, I was at the barn sometimes 7 days a week.
Okay, I understand.
And so I was there and not with him. And then it was expensive. And that's still kind of, I feel something inside of me when I talk about that, because I still get angry about it, because I sold my horse. I gave that up when it was the one thing that I had that was mine. And mainly because, it's too expensive, too time consuming, and didn't like it. He kept all of his hobbies, and his hobbies were equally or more expensive. So it was never about the money or the right? It's okay, what was actually going on, and we won't dive into that, but yeah.
Mine is more important, and yours is not that.
Yes.
Important for the couple. So I wanted to ask you, what's going on with that green drink that you have every morning?
Yeah.
I'm very curious.
Well, I don't know how much of my full story I shared. So, I lost my mom in 2019 and I lost my brother in 2019. So I had a few years that were really, really difficult. It was like divorce, mom diagnosed with dementia, mom died, brother died. And my brother dying was a really just kind of the final piece for me. And I really struggled getting back to living. And I remember I was so desperate that I was like, oh my, like, how do I move through my grief? How do I keep living my life? And so I started Googling grief, and it came up gratitude and grief. And so I started understanding that there's gratitude to be found in everything. And then that led me to learning about how just doing one thing for yourself every day. So build one habit can change everything. And I used to drink this green drink, and I quit everything because I was grieving and sad and just couldn't. And I got up one day and looked at the powder. I'm going to make myself my green drink. That's going to be what I do for myself, the one thing. And I did that for about a week, and I started to feel better. And then do it for another week. And then I was like, oh, I think I'm ready to add on to this. Like, maybe I'm not ready to go back to the gym, or I'm not ready to get out fully. And so I would just pick one more little thing and add on. And still every morning I drink my green drink every morning.
I used to juice for 3 months in a row. And at night I was drinking some vegetable and all those red, fruits. My skin was glowing. I swear it's magic. It's really everything is in the nature. We don't even have to have those expensive, cream.
Yes.
You still have to juice. So now, but the thing is, it's very time consuming. You have to clean everything. It's a lot of things. So I stopped after a while, but I think I'm going to go back to this because I really noticed the difference after a few weeks, that the skin was really better. And it makes you, definitely inside, it makes you feel really better.
Well, and it's a couple things. It's obviously the nutrition piece of it, but it's also just doing that one thing for myself that took 1 minute to make every day. Because mine is just a powder, and it's all of the green superfoods that you just would never eat.
Yeah.
Or they're not available to buy wherever you live, like me in Canada, where there's snow on the ground and it's going to be minus 26 this weekend.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine. Oof.
Well, minus 28 with the wind chill, actually. But and so it's just a green powder that has all the good stuff in it, and put it in some water, mix it up, and drink it.
Yeah, easier to make. Yeah. If some women, if women are looking to get some therapy, or they want some help from you, how can they contact you? And maybe try, to get coached by you and try to get over what they're living right now, like a divorce or separation. How can they contact you?
Yeah. So my website is www.healingyoufirstcoaching.com. So there's tons of information on there. I talk a lot about the emotional roller coaster of divorce, what it is, how do we get off of it, what's waiting for you on the other side. And then, of course, email. So it's just Nicki, Nicki, at healingyoufirstcoaching.com, not .ca.com. And those would be the two ways to reach out and get a hold of me.
Yeah, I'll put all the information in the show notes. I'll see also that you put you post some stuff on Facebook also, right? Are you really active on Facebook? Yeah.
It's funny. I post on social media. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I'm on TikTok. I just always forget to mention them. So yes, I'm on all of those things, Healing You First Coaching.
Okay. I would put that anyway. Don't worry about it. I'll do it.
Yeah. And also on my website, I have a free 10-step guide to reclaiming your life after divorce. So that's a really good way for people to kind of get started, is you can download the 10 steps for free and just kind of take a look, and just goes into a little bit of depth on some things that you can do, whether you choose to hire me or someone else. There are things that you can do on your own.
Do you think that you help a lot of women?
I do.
Doing this?
I feel like I'm now the coach that I needed.
Yeah, because actually I never heard about that before, to be honest. Except people who just will say, okay, I need to see a shrink because it's not going well. But yours is really particular. So, and you're talking about that, that root cause therapy, the muscles, the trauma in the body. I never heard about that before. So I thought that was really interesting. That's why I wanted to talk to you.
Well, and I think, talk therapy is amazing. And like I said, I am a huge advocate of normalizing therapy. I have my therapist that I go and do my talk therapy with, but talk therapy only takes us so far because, again, talk therapy is from the neck up. what's happening in our body. And if we don't take a look at what's happening in our body and release some of those things, we're never truly going to find that alignment, that connection.
Is there anything you want to add before we go that maybe I didn't ask you?
I feel like I've said quite a bit.
Yes.
I mean, I can always keep talking because I love this subject and I love helping women so much. But yeah, I'll stop there.
Okay, no problem. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Nicki, for coming. I was thinking maybe if I had more questions, maybe we can do, when I release when people are going to listen to this episode the week after, we can maybe do a live on Instagram. That's something new I'm just coming up with. If you have follow-up question, maybe ask, during a live. And if people want to join us or listen, that would be cool. They want to ask questions.
I would love to do that. And I smiled when you said that because for years I've tried to get people to come on like as a mortgage broker and go on a live with me, like a realtor and a lawyer, and like, let's answer questions live. And everyone's like, no, I can't do that. So
You're afraid?
Yeah. So for me to be asked to do that is amazing. Yes, I would love to do that.
Perfect. You can do that, and even if there's not a lot of people at that time who are going to do it who are listening, record it and after I can post it. It's okay. No problem.
Absolutely.
Cool. So I'll see you soon then. Thank you very much for everything, Nicki.
Thank you for having me.